All eyes were turned upon him. Many people laughed. The face of the cathedral organist wore a still more gloomy look than it had done before, but all he said was, "Very well." The concert came to an end, and the ball began. Oh, to dance with her, with her. That was now the aim of all Nathaniel's wishes, of all his desires. But how should he have courage to request her, the queen of the ball, to grant him the honor of a dance? And yet he couldn't tell how it came about. Just as the dance began, he found himself standing close beside her. Nobody having as yet asked her to be his partner, so, with some difficulty stammering out a few words, he grasped her hand. It was cold as ice. He shook with an awful, frosty shiver, but fixing his eyes upon her face, he saw that her glance was beaming upon him with love and longing. And at the same moment he thought that the pulse began to beat in her cold hand, and the warm lifeblood to course through her veins. And passion burned more intensely in his own heart also. He threw his arm round her beautiful waist and whirled her round the hall. He had always thought that he kept good and accurate time in dancing, but from the perfectly rhythmical evenness with which Olympia danced, and which frequently put him quite out, he perceived how very faulty his own time really was. Notwithstanding, he would not dance with any other lady, and everybody else who approached Olympia to call upon her for a dance, he would have liked to kill on the spot. This, however, only happened twice. To his astonishment, Olympia remained after this without a partner, and he failed not on each occasion to take her out again. If Nathaniel had been able to see anything else except the beautiful Olympia, there would inevitably have been a good deal of unpleasant quarreling and strife, for it was evident that Olympia was the object of the smothered laughter, only with difficulty suppressed, which was heard in various corners amongst the young people, and they followed her with very curious looks, but nobody knew for what reason. Nathaniel, excited by dancing and the plentiful supply of wine he had consumed, had laid aside the shyness which, at other times, characterized him. He sat beside Olympia, her hand in his own, and declared his love enthusiastically and passionately in words which neither of them understood, neither he nor Olympia. And yet, she perhaps did, for she sat with her eyes fixed unchangeably upon his, sighing repeatedly, "Ah, ah, ah." Upon this, Nathaniel would answer, "Oh, you glorious heavenly lady, you ray from the promised paradise of love. Oh, what a profound soul you have. My whole being is married in it." And a good deal more in the same strain. But Olympia only continued to sigh, "Ah, ah," again and again. Professor Spallanzani passed by the two happy lovers once or twice and smiled with a look of peculiar satisfaction. All at once it seemed to Nathaniel, albeit he was far away in a different world, as if it were growing perceptibly darker down below at Professor Spallanzani's. He looked about him, and to his very great alarm became aware that there were only two lights left burning in the hall, and they were on the point of going out. The music and dancing had long ago ceased. "We must part, he cried wildly and despairingly. He kissed Olympia's hand. He bent down to her mouth, but ice-cold lips met his burning ones. As he touched her cold hand, he felt his heart thrilled with awe. The legend of the dead bride shot suddenly through his mind. But Olympia had drawn him closer to her, and the kiss appeared to warm her lips into vitality. Professor Spallanzani strode slowly through the empty apartment, his footsteps giving a hollow echo, and his figure had, as the flickering shadows played about him, a ghostly, awful appearance. "Do you love me? Do you love me, Olympia?" "Only one little word. Do you love me?" whispered Nathaniel. But she only sighed, as she rose to her feet. "Yes, you are my lovely, glorious star of love," said Nathaniel, "and will shine forever, purifying and ennobling my heart." Replied Olympia, as she moved along. Nathaniel followed her. They stood before the professor. "You have had an extraordinarily animated conversation with my daughter," said he, smiling. Well, my dear Mr. Nathaniel, if you find pleasure in talking to the stupid girl, I'm sure I shall be glad for you to come and do so." Nathaniel took his leave, his heart singing and leaping in the perfect delirium of happiness. During the next few days, Spallanzani's ball was the general topic of conversation. Although the professor had done everything to make the thing a splendid success, yet certain gay spirits related more than one thing that had occurred which was quite irregular and out of order. They were especially keen in pulling Olympia to pieces for her taciturnity and rigid stiffness. In spite of her beautiful form, they alleged that she was hopelessly stupid, and in this fact they discerned the reason why Spallanzani had so long kept her concealed from publicity. Nathaniel heard all of this with inward wrath, but nevertheless he held his tongue, for though would it indeed be worthwhile to prove to these fellows that it is their own stupidity which prevents them from appreciating Olympia's profound and brilliant parts? One day, Siegmund said to him, "Pray, brother, have the kindness to tell me how you, a sensible fellow, came to lose your head over that Miss Waxface, that wooden doll across there." Nathaniel was about to fly into a rage, but he recollected himself and replied, "Tell me, Siegmund, how came it that Olympia's divine charms could escape your eye, so keenly alive as it always is to beauty, and your acute perception as well? But heaven be thanked for it, otherwise I should have had you for a rival, and then the blood of one of us would have had to be spilled." Siegmund, perceiving how matters stood with his friend, skillfully interposed and said, after remarking that all argument with one in love about the object of his affections was out of place, "Yet it's very strange that several of us have formed pretty much the same opinion about Olympia. We think she is, you won't take it ill, brother, that she is singularly statuesque and soulless. Her figure is regular, and so are all her features. That can't be gainsaid. And if her eyes were not so utterly devoid of life, I may say, of the power of vision, she might pass for a beauty. She is strangely measured in her movements. They all seem as if they were dependent upon some wound-up clockwork. Her playing and singing has the disagreeably perfect but insensitive time of a singing machine, and her dancing is the same. We felt quite afraid of this Olympia, and did not like to have anything to do with her. She seemed to us to be only acting like a living creature, and as if there were some secret at the bottom of it all." Nathaniel did not give way to the bitter feelings which threatened to master him at these words of Siegmund's. He fought down and got the better of his displeasure, and merely said, very earnestly, "You cold prosaic fellows may well be afraid of her. It is only to its like that the poetically organized spirits unfolds itself. Upon me alone did her loving glances fall, and through my mind and thoughts alone did they radiate, and only in her love can I find my own self again. Perhaps, however, she doesn't do quite right to jabber a lot of nonsense and stupid talk like other shallow people. It is true she speaks but few words, but the few words she does speak are genuine hieroglyphs of the inner world of love and of the higher cognition of the intellectual life revealed in the intuition of the eternal beyond the grave. But you have no understanding for all these things, and I'm only wasting words. God be with you, brother, said Sigmund very gently, almost sadly. But it seems to me that you are in a very bad way. You may reply upon me, if all. No, I can't say any more. It all at once dawned upon Nathaniel that his cold, prosaic friend Sigmund really and sincerely wished him well, and so he warmly shook his proffered hand. Nathaniel had completely forgotten that there was a Clara in the world whom he had once loved, and his mother-in-law there. They had all vanished from his mind. He lived for Olympia alone. He sat beside her every day for hours together, rhapsodizing about his love and sympathy enkindled into life, and about psychic elective affinity, all of which Olympia listened to with great reverence. He fished up from the very bottom of his desk all the things that he had ever written: poems, fancy sketches, visions, romances, tales, and the heap was increased daily with all kinds of aimless sonnets, stanzas, canzonets. All these he read to Olympia hour after hour without growing tired, but then he had never had such an exemplary listener. She neither embroidered nor knitted. She did not look out of the window, or feed a bird, or play with a little pet dog or a favorite cat. Neither did she twist a piece of paper or anything of that kind round her finger. She did not forcibly convert a yawn into a low affected cough. In short, she sat hour after hour with her eyes bent unchangeably upon her lover's face, without moving or altering her position, and her gaze grew more ardent and more ardent still. And it was only when at last Nathaniel rose and kissed her lips or her hand that she said, "Ah," and then, "Good night, dear." Arrived in his own room, Nathaniel would break out with, "Oh, what a brilliant and a profound mind. Only you alone understand me." And his heart trembled with rapture when he reflected upon the wondrous harmony which daily revealed itself between his own and his Olympia's character. For he fancied that she had expressed in respect to his works and his poetic genius the identical sentiments which he himself cherished deep down in his heart, in respect to the same, and even as it was, his own heart's voice speaking to him. And it must indeed have been so, for Olympia never uttered any other words than those already mentioned. And when Nathaniel himself, in his clear and sober moments, as for instance directly after waking in a morning, thought about her utter passivity and taciturnity, he only said, "What are words but words? The glance of her heavenly eyes says more than any tongue on earth. And how can, anyway, a child of heaven accustom herself to the narrow circle which the exigencies of a wretched mundane life demand?" Professor Spallanzani appeared to be greatly pleased at the intimacy that had sprung up between his daughter Olympia and Nathaniel, and showed the young man many unmistakable proofs of his good feeling towards him. And when Nathaniel ventured at length to hint very delicately at an alliance with Olympia, the professor smiled all over his face at once and said he should allow his daughter to make a perfectly free choice. Encouraged by these words, and with the fire of desire burning in his heart, Nathaniel resolved the very next day to implore Olympia to tell him frankly, in plain words, what he had long read in her sweet, loving glances, that she would be his forever. He looked for the ring which his mother had given him at parting. He would present it to Olympia as a symbol of his devotion and of the happy life he was to lead with her from that time onwards. Whilst looking for it, he came across his letters from Clara and Lothair, and threw them carelessly aside, found the ring, put it in his pocket, and ran across to Olympia.